Okay, back in BeamNG. I got my car fixed up. It's all good to go. Today we're gonna do a lot more car jockeying. I want to get to level 3. Level 3 means I can take on semi-trucks. And then once I can take on semi-trucks, I believe it goes to, like, race cars. And then beyond race cars, it just goes to, like, very, very expensive cars. And that's level 5. Or maybe... I don't even really remember. Because I know it goes all the way up to level 5, but I don't know what happens at level 4. Because level 1 is pieces of junk, level 2 is nicer cars, level 3 is semi-trucks, and level 5 is very fancy cars, but I don't know what level 4 is. So anyway, I got this Corvette, taking it to the garage. Was able to pick up a Bastion at that dealer, so I was able to work both ways. And then when the light turned green, I decided to give the intersection a little bit of a show. And then this thing was a piece of junk. It had like 300,000 miles on it, and it had the i6 motor, I believe. And it had no power at all. Like, you could just see it just stalled for some reason. And it does lots of one-wheel deals. Then I was at that dealership, so I picked up another car. Dug through the dirt, dropped off this car, and now I was back here so I could pick up another car. This time I picked up a van, and let me tell you, this thing was underpowered. It was completely gutless. It had about 350,000 miles on it. The thing was a piece of junk. And the transmission also felt very wrong. It wasn't shifting right. It almost wouldn't... It hesitated to, like, leave second, I believe. So you kind of had to force it out of it. It felt very unhealthy. And I was here again, so I picked up another car. now I'm back at the garage again. So I was going to pick up another car. I'm on a winning high here. And this thing was fast. And then I got in another van, but this one was actually kind of unique because it was the European model, and I don't know why it would be in the US, but what was really interesting about it was the fact it was manual. All of these are automatic, so it was interesting to see a manual one. I think it had like a 5-speed in it. And I really wanted to put the manual to the test, so I decided to do the only thing a man can do with a front-wheel drive manual. Do a burnout. And unfortunately, the beautiful winning high of not having to take taxi back to the van died with that. But it gave me some money. So I went back to the dealer, picked up another vehicle. And this vehicle is a mod. And I wasn't looking, and I clipped a van. The damage wasn't too severe. I messed up the front bumper a little, but fortunately, it was enough to deduct points, and I lost $70 and a little bit of credit, I think. Bit of a traffic jam there, wasn't really sure what was going on. AI is not the smartest. And I pulled back into the dealer, and yeah, they deducted a bit of money. And they had another car there, so I picked that one up. I tried to do a burnout, but it was not successful, because even with traction control off, this thing is impossible to do burnouts with. I ended up at another dealer, tried to see if he had anything here, which he did. He had another Lansdale. I don't know why these things are so popular. This one had a V6 in it. Wow. So I dropped it off at the place, and I took a taxi back, and picked up another ETK. And I decided to give it a good little show, see what it was worth. It can drift okay. I think the reason the other one I had didn't drift so well was because it was a diesel. Took another car. This one is a mod. And my fun fact, my last save game, this was actually the car I started out with because it was very cheap. And it was four-wheel drive. It had some nicer tires on it, but that was really the only thing that was different. And what happened was the new update came out with the school buses and the Miramar and the Burnside. And there's a period of time where you shouldn't put mods back on because it can mess things up. And I got impatient, so I loaded up the save game, and I had two vehicles, and they were both mods, and they both just disappeared. And I only had about $1,000 in the bank, and that wasn't enough to buy a new vehicle, so I abandoned that save. I turned it into a cheat save instead, and I just used the command prompt to give myself $1 million, and now I can buy all the things I want. But it was kind of a cool vehicle. The only problem with it was very slow. So is everything. Like, my van isn't much faster. But it was cheap. Another thing is with the van is the fact that it's front-wheel drive. I did do a little bit of researching, and I found out that you can make it rear-wheel drive, and it's not a substantial amount of money, at least for the transmission. The transmission swap is like $90. But the problem is that you need to gut the rear suspension, because currently the rear suspension is beam axle, and you need to switch the beam axle for independent trailing arm or whatever it is, and then put a diff in it, which can probably add up to like $2,000 if I'm not mistaken. And if you're going for $2,000, you might as well just buy a cheap van or something like that. I'll probably end up buying a box truck. I took the crosswalk, because, I don't know. Got to the dealer, but this is a fancy dealer, and I don't have the level yet, so I didn't even bother checking. Got another K-truck. And this will be the last vehicle I need to transport before I can finally get my level 3. So, yeah. In the next video, I will be driving around some semi-trucks, which will be a little bit more exciting. So, that'll do it for today's video. Thank you for watching, and I will see you tomorrow.